Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Come on in. Come on in. Super excited. I wanted to say today is Wednesday, but it is not. It's a Thursday, right? We're usually on a Wednesday or a Monday, but today is a Thursday. Woohoo! Wow, fantastic. I'm so glad to see all of you guys. As you come in, please do me a favor and just drop your name and where you're joining us from in the chat. I'm Sarita, and it is about to pour down here in Chicago. The thunder just shook my house and caught me off guard. But I'm in the south suburbs. Is it raining by you, Emily? So come on in.
It's still kind of, it looks like it wants to, but I haven't seen anything yet, so it'll surprise me.
Right. Thank you. Hi, Angela. Angela, you're raising your hand. You want to come on screen and say something to us? Or are you just trying to say hello? Drop it in the chat for me. All right. Hey, Wendy. Welcome. Samantha, hello. Hi, Autumn. Hi, Alyssa. Hello, all. Althea and Sandy, welcome, welcome. Super, super glad you guys are here to join us for this very, very important topic today. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Cynthia. Fantastic. Hey, Maria. Hello, Genovia. Did I say it right? That's okay. That's fine. Hi, Nicolette. Welcome. Well, I'm super, super glad you guys are here today. Hey, Tangie. Hello, hello. So today, our webinar series, as you know, we've moved it around a little bit because it's usually be held daily. And now we've changed sort of the focus. It used to be about staying positive for ourselves and our children. We're now talking about enhancing and empowering conversations for positive change. It's where we bring great resources, great things to share with our Be Strong Families family. To help us grow and to help us, to empower us to see things differently. So today, I'm super excited because we have a fantastic guest. We're going to tell you a little bit about her a little bit further in. So thank you to everybody who's still dropping things in the chat. I love it. Next slide, please, Dee. The way we engage during this time together during our webinars is when you're ready to speak, raise your hand and we'll ask you to unmute yourself. Also, when you raise your hand, it also means that we're going to, you'll be on camera with us because it's a webinar setting, which is why I asked Angela if she was ready to talk or not. Feel free to type your comments in the group chat. Make sure it's going to everyone. If you're not careful about that, it will come just to us, to Emily, myself, and Dee. So be mindful and then be patient with us. You guys are, woohoo! This is a hot topic because you guys are still coming in. Oh, hey, Miss Barbara. So be patient with us as we try to get to everybody, okay? We want to make sure that we get to anybody who has a question. And, throughout the time together, you'll be able to come on, ask questions throughout the presentation so you don't have to wait all the way into the end, okay? And then these are our agreements. Our agreements are the way that we create an emotionally safe space at Be Strong and encourage people to be brave within those spaces. So it may not be, we can't make it safe for everybody, but as safe as we possibly can. So we're going to ask you to speak from your own agreements and use I statements as you're sharing. This means don't talk about everybody else's business. Your experience has enough value on its own. Talk about your experience. We ask you to follow the golden rule. This wraps up all of our cafe agreements in a nice gift wrap package where we're not giving advice. We're not judging any of those things. We are simply listening, leaning in, all of that's great stuff. Please no multitasking. It is lunch, so I know you guys are going to eat, but try not to play Candy Crush, be on social media, all that stuff while you're in the webinar because we don't want you to miss a thing. And if you need a minute, take a minute. Sometimes conversations based on where you are in the moment can be activating, triggering, whatever word you want to use for it. If you need a minute, take a minute. Okay, if you agree, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Type I agree in the chat for me. Hey, Patty. Hey, Patty. Fantastic. Good stuff. I see you guys moving. I love it. All right, I'm feeling like this place is really, it's going to be a safe spot, a safe space. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. All right, D, we can go to the next slide. So today we are talking about grooming. Most of you guys knows, and you're here because you're familiar with the term. And if you're not, we hope that you'll get familiar with the term. We have a fantastic presenter today from Chicago Police Department. Her name is Detective Emily Merida, and she is going to talk to us today about grooming. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Okay, she's been working for the Chicago Police Department for 26 years, and she's a detective with special investigations for 21 years. She specializes in Spanish-speaking cases that involve sex crimes against children and child sexual abuse material. She's an instructor for all new detectives for the city of Chicago, where she explains what her specialized unit involves in and how to best handle those crimes, including interviewing techniques. She's one of several detectives with children or family with special needs, which motivates her unit to advocate for these children and adults whose voices may possibly be better heard through specialized interviews. She still looks forward to working and helping the family she serves. Emily Merida, thank you for being here today. I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm your host, Rita Sessions. Sorry. Bye.
So I know I'm going to be talking about grooming. It expands way past grooming, but really that's I guess the key right there. Grooming is where a lot of it starts with our children and even our adults. We sometimes do have adults that are also having issues where they've gotten caught up where internet's everywhere, and and grooming is just part of what some people do to try to get to your children or to you, and they're just picking and choosing and hoping that someone's going to fall for what they're saying. Next slide is fine. Okay, so a groomer is a predator, and they're going to engage with the victim. So they're going to work and try to gain someone's trust. They're going to manipulate them, break them down, and they're going to do this slowly for most of the time. It just depends on who they're speaking to. They're going to be giving you a lot of attention. There's going to be a lot of flattery and ego boosting, and they're going to be slowly trying to isolate your child or the person that they're trying to groom. Eventually, there might be gift giving involved when it comes to these predators. They slowly want to gain your trust. They want to gain the child's not only trust, but that they want this child to feel comfortable with them and feel that, this is someone they can turn to, that maybe they're thinking in their own minds that they can't turn to other people. And so this is where it is important that you have to be there for them, to answer those questions for them, even if feels embarrassing at times. A lot of times I see parents shying away from this, and this is something we need to be open with, age appropriately, but we need to be open with our children about it, because what they'll do is they'll turn to somebody else to get that information, or they'll get bad information from their peers and so forth. So it's really important that you understand what a predator is, so you can relate it to them, so they can see it when they can start acknowledging that that's what's going on, and let you know if they see this kind of behavior, whether it's with them or with someone they know. Next slide, please. So it is a gradual process, psychological, emotional manipulation. They're going to pick their target. If that target doesn't catch on, to what they're trying to do to them, they'll move on to the next target. They are going to befriend them. They're going to build a trust, like I said. They're going to get your child to isolate themselves. And this is just a way of getting them to just want to trust them, not talk to other people, and avoid that situation where they'll be talking to other people about what's going on. So they're preparing them for this type of abuse later, whether it be in person or whether it be through the internet. But it could be anything from sexual to financial. So the first step the groomer takes is to establish that friendship and trust with your child, or with the adult themselves as well. It can be, like I said, sexual or financial in nature. It can happen online or in person. And it can, they look for different ways to gain trust. And then people that are doing this often. So they're getting very good at it and understanding behaviors in children or even in adults, and what they need to do, or when they need to stop it and move on to the next person, because that child is maybe not doing what they want them to do. So they are going to be very nice at first and make promises, send gifts, and eventually they're going to then start to make things a little more aggressive. And at that point, they know when they're ready to, when the child is going to maybe respond. The sexual abuse is the main motive when it comes to children. And by sexual abuse, I mean everything from meeting them to just sending pictures or videos of themselves. They get these children to do this, and they get them to do it quite often. And we're seeing a lot where, because it's everywhere, these children are doing this and they don't know what to do because they're afraid to tell their parents or somebody. And usually it's because someone else saw the video or saw the picture, and that's how we usually get involved. And by then, this has been going on for a while. So we as parents need to see those, be able to catch that, and be able to have them be aware of what it is that's happening before it happens, and before they get to that point where they feel there's no returning from it. And then again, when it comes to adults, it may be some, maybe the same. And then mostly for adults, it might be for financial motives. You can go to the next slide. Let me just turn on my light. Sorry, it got dark here all of a sudden. So when look, as a parent, we look for signs, and each parent is going to know their child best. So not every child is the same. And so you know your child best, you know what makes them happy, what makes them sad, how they act. So when things start to change, we usually notice, we usually see it, but sometimes you have to, certain ages, you have to pay a little extra attention as to why are they acting this way, or why are they changing. So children sometimes can become withdrawn, or they seem troubled, but they're not telling you, or they're not wanting to talk about it, or they shut down when you try to tell them talk to them about it. They become defensive about it because maybe this groomer has already gotten to them to the point where they're putting in their head that no one's going to understand, and they're trying to, they've manipulated the child already to start thinking a certain way. And so the child might become defensive because this person is giving them all this type of information as to oh, you're very pretty, or oh, you're so nice, and to the point where that child is like, this person really understands me, knows me, gets me. And so there becomes that defensiveness when they feel that communication is going to be taken away from them, not understanding that it's going to a different place. The targeted person becomes reluctant to see anyone. Sometimes they become very isolated. They want to a lot of times spend more time on their phone, on their tablets, on their computers, more than usual. They become secretive in what they're doing online, or what they're or who they're talking to. They're talking about a new friend, but nobody really knows who's this new friend. And suddenly you talk about issues that they've never really been interested in, that you haven't brought up and, no one else has brought up, where are they coming up with all this information? I always say, as rule of thumb with my children, it was always like, if you don't know the person, I didn't like them being friends with anyone that they didn't know. If they were going to be friends online with some of these applications, a lot of it is like, if you don't know them, there's no reason to accept them as friends. And it was just kind of giving them the rules, and also why the rules are put into place and what could happen. Unfortunately, because I see it every day, I can give them a synopsis of, this is what could happen. So this is why I'm asking you not to do this. So becoming informed is very, very important. So they can also it's not just you telling them not to do it. There's a reason behind it and how to protect them on it. And so when they do see it happening, they are now putting two and two together. Wait a minute, didn't mom or dad or this person tell me this, and now I'm seeing it. I have to, tell. Always, I would, when it comes to these signs also, if they're online, I would always make sure that I know what applications they're on, what phones they have, make sure they're not having, because there'll be gift giving. And there's different ways that people will send gifts to these children. They'll send them phones. They'll send it through Amazon. They'll get a link. They'll give them a link to get onto something or the other. And that's how they start getting gifts. And sometimes it's we have really good parents sometimes that come in that didn't even realize that this was happening until it has gotten to the next level. So you have to be very, very aware of what your children are doing online, and what kind of equipment they have. Do they have phones? Do they have extra phones? Do they have tablets? Where do they have these? Why? I mean, rule of thumb for me when my kids was always no phones, no computers, no laptops in your rooms. Everything was out in the open where we could see them. If you don't like it, then you don't get them. And that was pretty much what it came down to. Again, I would explain to them why I was so concerned about it and what made me so vigilant about it. And for the most part, it's usually like, oh, whatever, no, but I think in the back of their heads, they realized, yeah, this is just to protect me. But again, you're going to be the best source to guide your children as to not only you seeing the signs, but them seeing the signs of what's occurring online with them. Next slide. I don't even know what happened. Anyone can be a victim of grooming. Like I said, I had some parents who put in all the steps they thought they had to put in, and it still happened. So again, but communication was the key. So a lot of times, even though it did happen, the child did tell. Sometimes the child told with time, where we could put something together and figure out who this person was before any more damage could be done. And then sometimes it is something that occurs and it just has gotten to a point, but that doesn't mean we can't work on trying to figure out who this person is and putting a stop to it. Next slide. So what you can do is, if something like this were to ever happen, I would always say, if it's your child's phone, I would take it and I would put it into airplane mode first, so they can't erase anything in, because they could get onto something else and go into the cloud and erase everything. I would put everything into airplane mode that you can put into. If it's something like Snapchat or something like that, know that if you do take screenshots, the person that's sending stuff will know that you're taking the screenshot. I would always have if they contacted me and let me know this is what's going on, I'd have them take a picture of what was happening. So with their own phone, take a picture of what was going on as it was going on. So they had a little more evidence, and then report it right away. Because a lot of times, if you tell these people that and you're warning them, and you wait, they're gonna get rid of that account. And the account can only, once some of these accounts are gone, they're gone, and we can't find them. So it becomes an issue of time sometimes, and of trying to manipulate the manipulator, where we're trying to make them think nothing's happened, everything's the same as it's always been. And then we try to get into their accounts to figure out who they are, because they've been doing this. So a lot of times they're trying to hide their identity, even online, and we're trying to figure out who they are. And sometimes they'll slip, and we're able to figure out through different applications what's going on. Unfortunately, it's a very time-consuming investigation, because it's just kind of one thing leads to another, to another, to another, to another, and eventually you're hoping to get to that person. You can always also contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That is also a very, very good source for looking into. As a parent, there's resources there, and there's videos that you can look at, and it depends on the age. So you can look at age appropriate. So if you have a child that's between 2 and 3, it'll give you instructions as to what you can do with something that, how to explain something to a child that's 2 or 3 years old, and what kind of applications or games they should be playing, or what's safe for them. There's also games there that they could play on that could be very, very helpful and educational for them. And it goes into teens, where teens can also view them for themselves if they want to. So it's a very, very good resource. And it also links you to the cyber tip hotline, where you can also report any crime that has occurred on the internet. And so when you report it to them, they will figure out where it's coming from, what's going on, and then they will send it on to the appropriate police officer or where it's supposed to go. So if it happened in Chicago, they would send a cyber tip line to our offices. And so there is what's called the ICAC, which is the internet. It's an internet safety division for Chicago Police Department that only handle what's called the cyber tips. So that's anything that's been called in to happen in Chicago that has to do with online enticement, sexting, that all is coming from the grooming. So grooming kind of leads all into this whole other snowball effect, I guess you could say. And then anything that has to do with what we used to call child pornography is also something that they would look into. So they call it CSAM now, which is just child sexual abuse material. So they've kind of made it all kind of one thing, and you can also report that. When it comes to anything that has to do with that type of material, I wouldn't be taking evidence of it or screenshotting it and sending it out. That's something that is very so if there's child pornography online with your child and you're seeing it, I would, like I said, save what you have by the airplane mode. If you need to screenshot it on that same phone to make sure it doesn't get erased because it's coming from someone else, that's fine too. But then I would immediately call and let them know, but do not email, don't message it. They'll be like, here, look what I saw, look what they're sending me, because then you're distributing, and that's also a crime. And I'm not saying someone might get in trouble for that, because we understand it's not that they're doing it for that purpose, but we're trying to avoid it to continue going out into the internet world. I would, like I said, talk to your children, make them understand whatever they send out there, whether it is pictures, videos, or simple things that they write. You can't take those things away. Once it's out there, it's out there. And as much as we can get involved and do what we can to help everyone, we can't take back what's been sent out into the cyber world. It's out there. And as much as we try to diminish what continues going out, we can't control it once it's into that world. So it's something that's one thing I would tell kids over and over and over. Don't put out something there that you don't want later on to come back and someone that you know sees it. So rule of thumb, what I tell the kids is, if you're going to write something or you're going to send a picture or a video, is this something that you would do if you were standing in front of your mother, father, or a teacher, and they were seeing what you were doing or writing? Would you be okay with doing that? Would you be embarrassed? Would you be okay with it? Because if the answer is no, then don't do it. If you are taking a picture that you know your parent or teacher is going to be like, why, that's embarrassing, or would be too embarrassed to do it in front of them, then that's the key. That's the key I always tell the kids to think of before they do anything, before they hit send. Is that something your teacher would be proud of you for sending? And it's just kind of to make them stop and think a little bit before they do that, because once they do, it does become, like I said, an issue they regret. As a parent, I tell my kids, and I also tell other kids, don't blame, don't be the, oh, why did you do this, and shame them at this point, because it's kind of too late. Now it's a matter of, how do we fix this? And then most of the time it's not their fault. They even if they knew better, there's someone else manipulating them. And so we just need to be there for them and make them understand that that's what we're there for, to help them, and that we're gonna be there as support, because having that support is actually very key for them to feel better and to come out of this in a more positive way as best they can. I'm trying to think. When it comes to, yeah.
No, I'm just gonna ask a question, if you
Sure.
don't mind. What does a groomer look like, and who can be a groomer?
Anybody, female, male. Groomer could be a very respected person in society that is one face in public and is a different behind the screen. It's not what you would think typically, what people think a predator might look like. It's just anybody. It could be your next door neighbor. It just could be anybody. And you just have to be very vigilant, unfortunately. It's not like the old days where your kids could get away from somebody by coming home, right? You could have an argument with someone, or someone could be looking at you funny, but as soon as you got home, you're safe. And unfortunately nowadays, you just open up that computer and it's everywhere. So we just have to be very vigilant. And I'm not saying, oh, you got it, you shouldn't act like everyone is, but we have to be a little vigilant. We have to arm ourselves with that information, to have those key things in our heads that when we see it, and our gut tells us, wait a minute, that's something. When your gut is telling you, I don't know, that's when you have to stop and think a little more, and maybe, go into researching this a little bit more, like why, what's going on here, really. You should be able to go into your kids' computers, into their phones. They shouldn't be locking them. And if they are, you should have complete access, because that is a privilege for them. It's not something that they should just have because they're supposed to. It's something that they should gain with trust and so forth. You should also be very aware of what computers schools use. What kind of applications do they use? What permissions are there? What kind of monitoring do they do? Just as well as you should do with your own home. So at home, find software that is going to monitor all your applications. So what's on your phone, what's on your internet, what they're looking at, things that you can filter certain things out with, where you have blocking capabilities. So if your children are really small, even though you're talking to them, it's going to block them from doing certain things, or let you know when they are doing stuff. And it's something that pretty much everyone who has internet will have that capability, going to their to the companies and saying, hey, what do you have for this. This is what I'm looking for, and this is what I need. A lot of times these companies might even have it for free as part of the packages that come when they're doing their internet, because they also understand that you need to keep your children safe and your family safe from these predators that are trying to find you one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. That's why we have. That's why it's so shocking when you see because I was always brought up to be thinking about stranger danger, right?
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
then stranger danger is not. It's like your priests when you start seeing like the gym coach and the and all the pastors, and you're like, what? What in the heck? And it's not just. It isn't stranger danger.
No,
It's
no.
the people that we know and are familiar with, and we've allowed into our homes and into our
Right.
hearts.
Yes.
That's
And they know, and they seek it, they know it, and they know how to manipulate us. They know what to say. So we gain trust. And when we have trust, our walls come down, right? But like I said, even with trust and even with putting those walls down, sometimes we have to take a step back and think and kind of analyze things a little bit more. And it's not that we're trying to be, you don't want to be paranoid, but you do want to protect your children as best you can. And like I said, a lot of our cases, I'd say 99% of our cases are someone they know, are someone that the family has trusted, are people who have been in their lives for years and no one ever realized that this had been going on, or that this was happening, or that um, this person could do any harm, and then come to realize it's not just your child, but it's also so-and-so's
yeah.
child and so-and-so's child, and no one had a
Mhm.
clue. And these are, like I said, I'm talking about all parents, all type of guardians that all good intentions, all doing what they're supposed to be doing, and things still happen. As I remind them, that's not their fault. We're human and we try to do the best we can. And
Mhm.
yes, we do trust people. And all we can do is the best we can. And so all I'm saying is sometimes we got to step back and analyze, why are they being so nice to my child? Why, just like on the internet world, why all of a sudden just them have to go talk about something? Why is he giving her or him gifts? Why is she coming home with no new gym shoes, and
Mhm.
she don't make that much money, but why is that happening? And where is that coming from? And why isn't she telling me, or he telling
Mhm.
me? And what's
Mhm.
something, you get that little
Yeah.
sense, something's not right here.
Or like I was gonna say, I was listening to my daughter was talking to my granddaughter, and she would explain to her like, no, a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old is not your best. Like they're never gonna be your best friend. Like that is
Correct.
not. That's not like, oh, you're so mature for your age. No, they're never going to be your best friend. Like,
Correct.
in that
Right.
way. So those kinds of things, like, you know what I mean? Like I was, so watch stuff, and I was like telling her, like, yeah, we didn't think about even those people. If you're 14 and he's 25, you know what I mean? Or he's 20 and he's like, oh, you're my best friend. No, he's probably not your best friend. Like, no, you don't need to be hanging out with him,
Right.
in that way. Right.
Yeah.
Because yeah, what does he want with a 14-year-old?
Exactly. Exactly. They have nothing in common. Absolutely nothing. And then yeah. And in trying to explain it, I mean, you think they don't listen, but if you explain it to them as best you can, something's hopefully going to stick. Like, oh, wait,
Yeah.
that's right. But they might not tell you you're right, but they
Right.
might take it with them and be like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you know what?
that is
What
kind of
else
weird.
it is, but it's also a little scary too. And you also have a question, but it's also a little scary too because now even more, they use young women and young boys, like kids who are their age or just a year or two
Yes.
of
Mhm.
older than them
Yes.
to draw them into like trafficking or being used or whatever the case is. So
Yeah.
it's a little scary as a parent, and
Very
having
scary.
to
Yeah. And it's very scary. And yes, sometimes the kids might think you're being overbearing. You're just, why are you always in my business? But, again, it's like, explaining because I love you and because it
Mm-hmm.
is my job to be in your business and make sure you make it to where you need to make it. So it's no longer going to be really, I'm not going to have to, when you're out there in the world, I know you're going to be safe. So,
Mm-hmm.
and even though, like I said, when they're like, oh, they're rolling their eyes at you, they it's there. They're hearing
Mm-hmm.
it. They're understanding it. It's just, especially teenagers, they can be a little difficult, but it's not that they're not listening. They're hearing you. And even though they act like they don't want it, they do want that you get involved with them, that you're paying
Yeah.
attention to what they're doing, that they're important,
Yeah.
that you take that time to show them how much you care about them, with this and everything else. So kind of like the other way of a groomer, but you're trying to get their trust, you're trying to get their attention, and you're trying to have them want to talk to you about these situations, even if they are very difficult, and understanding that sometimes they might not ever tell you everything, because I don't, I'm in my 50s and I still won't tell my mom certain things. I'm like, oh no, not telling her that, because I just can't, but
Mm-hmm.
understanding that, knowing but that they can come to you, and that you're going to make them comfortable enough that they can come to you at least to say something's happened or something's going
Mm-hmm.
on, and I don't want to tell you everything, but I do want your help. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, part of the key, and then telling them,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, I'm here for you,
Yeah.
without the judgments, because that's going to maybe shut them down, and we don't want them to shut down. We want them to always want to come to their guardian parent and be able to feel that confidence that they're still gonna love me, they're still gonna talk to me, they're still gonna listen to what I have to say, and I already feel horrible, and that's why I'm coming to you. I don't need to be
Mm-hmm.
told that I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I need to be told that it's going to be okay, because I have that person that's going to help me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Someone said, is there a software slash a program that monitors those things that you would recommend?
I would highly recommend to go to whoever your internet provider is. Whether, whatever internet provider you have, I would talk to them. What works best with you guys? This is what I'm looking for. And this is what, because everyone's going to have different needs. So it's going to be asking the right questions. What are you looking for? What, just being honest. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to monitor. This is how I want to block. What do you suggest I get? And everything changes. It's just an overwhelming amount of information out there. Everything changes from time to time. So it's just something that I would definitely go to your internet provider. Or if it's just like you just have phones, go to that. I go straight to the stores every time. Listen, this is what I'm looking for. What do I do? And if I always tell some of my parents, because some parents are not very tech savvy, and I get that. You know what? Go to take that time to go to that store and ask the kid that's working behind the counter, how do I do this? And what do you recommend is the best way to do it? And they will guide you through it, and they'll tell you what the best, sometimes those young kids behind that counter know, they know, oh yeah, if you get this one, this is what this does. And if you get that, that's what this was. Oh, you know what? Your phone already has it. This is what you have to do. So that's what I would suggest is, just, getting on that phone, talking to someone with your internet provider, or like I said, I prefer in person, and show me what you're talking about. Okay. And this is what I want. And then kind of walking through it with them, and then getting to what you need. That's what I would suggest. Cause like I said, everyone's going to be different. Everyone has
Mm-hmm.
different types of internet and systems, or what they're working with. So I would
Mm-hmm.
highly suggest that.
I was just gonna say that I recently, I'm so impressed by my daughter because she's a young mom, but her daughter is 14. And I was just made aware like that now on TikTok, if your kids are on TikTok, that you can actually track and you can see everything that's happening on their phone and what they're watching. So if you put, because the kids learn how to turn off the parental stuff, and
Oh
all,
yeah.
they learn how to turn
Yeah,
all that stuff off.
they
But
do.
she has it set up so that she's able through TikTok to see everything that, and on her phone, so she can see
Yeah.
everything that comes through her phone that her daughter. I'm like, oh wow, that's so cool. I mean, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I didn't have that when I was when I was younger.
No, no, I know I have, it's well, my son doesn't get online. He's special needs. He's older. My other son, he's grown and he's no longer, I don't worry about that anymore with him. But, when it comes to, uh, phones, I know there's, some of my coworkers have younger children and they actually have it on their phones where their phones will alert them if their children get on the phone and get any new apps or new
Mhm.
friends
Yeah,
that they don't know, and it'll just alert them so the parents already know. No, 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 no. What are you doing? So it's kind
yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, that's kind of sweet, that's kind of nice to have. But like I said, that's something I would go to the whatever internet
Mhm.
cell phone company you're going to. If it's T-Mobile, go into them and say, hey, what kind of fancy applications are there where I can link to my kids' phones through this phone?
Mhm.
What is the best way to keep that type of control? And this is, whether you're looking for, like, I don't want them to know, or I just need to know if they're gonna be putting in applications I don't want them to be putting in, or
Mhm.
applications I just need to be made aware of, or
Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that. So but like I said, that's going to
Can
be individual to each person as to what they have and what they're working with.
you mentioned some signs that that your kid might be being groomed, right? Or
Mhm.
messed. And I'm just wondering, is no, maybe I'm thinking bedwetting is like is that's more of a sexual abuse
Yeah, it can
sign and
be.
not like grooming. I mean, can be
Correct.
a sign of.
I see
Mhm.
that when it's in person. I don't see that. I haven't seen that yet with internet issues. With
No,
the
not with the internet, but just period, because we're talking about grooming, right? So just
right.
period. Like if a kid is being messed with, it might show up in that way, or it could show up like an acting out.
Acting out, I've seen a lot, because then it is that defensiveness. It's that what are you doing? Oh no, yeah, because they're at this point maybe embarrassed, or no, kind of, this isn't maybe right, and I've been told
Mm-hmm.
to do something different, but yet I'm not doing that, and this person makes me feel so nice, and they're so good to me, and they are telling me how smart I am, how nice I look, and I don't want that to go to waste. So there, especially
Mm-hmm.
depending on the age, there's a lot of that going on. If they're younger, it might be like, but this person's so nice, but you know what? I'm going to get in trouble if I tell them I'm doing something now that I realize I'm doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, that they told me not.
Yeah.
So like I said, communication is going to be key. I think a lot of times, regardless of all that, you have to be able to tell your child that it doesn't matter, but you can always come to me. I am not going to yell at you, but I'm going to hear you. I might not be happy, but I'm going to hear you out, and I'm going to do best to help you. Because sometimes like I said, kids, it gets to a point where the kids finally realize this is what they were talking about, but now how do I
Mm-hmm.
come to them? Because they already told me not to, and how do I do that? And then this person has already manipulated them to think, if you do say now, this is what's going to happen, and this is, they're going to be very upset with you. Now they're already belittling these kids, so these kids are now realizing this person's got me. He's already, or he or she has already manipulated them to that point and gotten their self-esteem to be so low, and that's where they have to have eventually that confidence to go to that family member or parent or guardian to be able to do that. I think sometimes another key I have is, I tell people, is there like an older, maybe a couple years older cousin that they're very
Mm-hmm.
close to, that always seems to be the person that's their person, they talk to, how you always had that maybe the older brother that I always trusted, that I could tell him anything, and I knew he was always going to be around, or my cousin who was always
Mm-hmm.
sweet, and we could talk about everything and laugh about everything, and I could tell her maybe stuff that I couldn't tell my mom. So sometimes that's the key, hey, so and so's acting a little funny. Can you talk to him or her and can you see what's going on? Do you notice it? And if you do, can you see what's going on? Maybe he or she'll talk to you about it and we can get down to this because I'm worried. And so
Yeah.
sometimes there's, that little network that has to be formed to try to protect your child a little bit
Hmm.
more, to get that information.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes, like I said, even as an adult, I don't tell my mom everything, but I might tell my brother, I will go to
Yeah.
him and be like, this is what's going on. I don't know how to approach this. What do you think we should do? Or what should I do? And so a lot of times if you have like a bigger family where you have that one cousin that's just that good kid that's always very communicative with your children and the family and you, maybe that's the person that needs to go to your child and be like, hey, what's going on? And kind of maybe that's the person that your child will be able to say, this is what's happening. Because that's how we get our information. That's how we get our reports. It's the best friend. It's the cousin who she told, but had to tell. Like a week
Yeah.
later, said, you know what, I can't keep this. I have to tell you, this is what so-and-so told me. What do I do? And that's how we come to get them. It's usually because it's someone like that they had to tell somebody and they wanted to
Yeah.
tell someone. And usually it's someone close to their age, kind of a peer that
Mm.
they feel maybe can understand what they're going through, or maybe has gone through it and maybe can tell them what they need to do at this point.
So we have a question from Jennifer.
Mhm.
So is there any differences in how grooming looks depending on whether it is for trafficking persons versus done online versus someone slash in-person grooming?
I don't think so. I think grooming is grooming. They're manipulating you, they're gaining your trust. And that's I think key. They're gaining trust. They're starting by being really nice, really good, just like a normal person would, and it just gradually gets really, really nice. It's just a little sometimes over the top, depending on the child, how much is it going to take them? Are they going to really have to work at it to try to gain this kid's trust? Or not. And then once they gain the trust, then the manipulation comes into play. And once they've got them, manipulated and in doing things that now they're realizing, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done, that's when they are then coercing them into stuff. So that's when they're like, well, I already got a picture of you now. You're going to have to send me more. I'm going to send this to your mother. I'm going to send this to your cousins. I have all their information. So that is something that I think everyone does, even in person, would be like, well, now this happened. And I'm just going to, if you say anything, I'm just going to say you're a liar. No one's going to believe you. Or I'm going to say it was you the whole time. And so it just becomes the same when it comes to either one. Grooming is grooming. They're just trying to win you over and win your trust. And
Mm-hmm.
once they do, they're going to try to bring you down with it.
Yeah. Can
It's
I
really. Mhm.
I there is okay, there are four documentaries that I watched, and this is
Uh-huh.
for anybody who wants to check it out. But when you talk about this particular topic like grooming, and she asked what does it look like, it's interesting because I watched these four four shows, documentaries. One was the Woody Allen documentary, which is like in the 60s or 50s or something like that.
Mhm.
And then there was another one, A Friend of the Family, that's on Netflix. That's a documentary. And that happened in the 70s. R. Kelly came along in the 90s in the R.
Yeah.
Kelly documentary. And then you had Leaving Neverland with Michael Jackson, which was like in the 80s. But
Yeah.
when you watch all those documentaries, all four of them, there is you can see the thread, you can see the mythology, you can see like everything that you're talking about. You see that in these, like how they got in with the families, how they get in with the children, their relationships with the children, the constant like wanting to be with them, the texting, phone calls, with kids. And it's scary when you see it in that way. Because when I watched the first one, I was like, oh, this is strange. I was like, oh, this is strange. And then when I happened to see the archaeology thing, I was like, oh my God, this is just like the other
Like,
show that I
yeah.
watched, right?
Mhm.
And then when I
Yeah.
watched Leaving Neverland, and there was no people were like, oh no, not Michael Jackson. But when I watched Leaving, I was like, oh my God, this is the exact same thing that that I so there's a trend. What do you call it? Like a trend, or it's the
It's
same
just,
in
yeah,
the
it's the same.
methodology. I was like,
Yeah.
this is creepy. Like, this is really creepy, which is sort of where this topic came from. Was
Mhm.
like, oh, I don't know if parents pay attention or know about these things. We talk about sexual abuse, but I don't think we talk about grooming
Yeah.
enough and how it happens, and that parents are oftentimes also seduced because when I say seduced, they're seduced like in the by that person's personality,
Yeah.
in the cases of like the pastors and the gym teachers and all that stuff. It's like, oh, they're so great people. Or
Yeah.
they're seduced by the gift giving, you know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
if it's a celebrity, then it's like, oh, this person is so great. Oh, they're gonna put my kid on. My kid is gonna make it too, but
Yeah.
not realizing like, oh yeah, but they're after your kid. You
Right.
know what I
There's
mean?
other motives.
There's
Yes.
other motives behind it, and so those are I'm putting in the chat. So if anybody wants to go look at those, but those are some good like
And I think that's
glaring
actually a
stuff.
really good idea, yeah, to watch those videos because it just kind of opens your eyes and it shows you, even though that you're right, the different examples, but it's all the same. It's all the same type of steps that they took with these people.
Jeez,
And it
it was
kind of
mind
just,
blowing.
yeah, and it opens your mind to it. It gives you a larger perspective on it all. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, maybe if you, hopefully you never, this never happens and you never have
Right.
to see it. But when you do, you'll be like, wait a minute, where did I see that before? Like, or this behavior, where have I seen this? This is not right. And that little, what they say, the spidey sense goes on, and you're like,
Yes.
something's not right here. I don't like that. And we gotta go with our gut sometimes and be like,
Mhm.
yeah, no, I have to
Yeah.
look into this a little more.
So now I'm watching now I'm a grandma now, right? So I'm watching everything like, oh no, they don't need to be with you all the time, those kinds of things. But Melissa also has a question. Are you noticing any trends within the high schools with boyfriends or girlfriends grooming and trafficking their significant others to their peers or others? So are groomers starting younger, and are groomers starting younger and younger for the financial gain? So there's two questions. Are you noticing any trends? And then our
Um,
groomers starting younger and younger for a financial gain. Thank you. Thank you everybody for your questions. Keep them
Yeah,
coming.
I don't know if I'm seeing trends. I think we see it more now, but everything's out there now on the internet. So it's kind of we're becoming more aware of things that maybe we didn't know about in the past. So but as far as boyfriends and girlfriends grooming, the grooming I can see from time to time. It depends on the individual. We just have to be careful. Just like I'd say, not only our children, but even as adults, you have that I guess you could say honeymoon phase, and then things start to change, and then you start realizing, wait a minute, something's not wrong. But sometimes even as adults, we have a hard time figuring it out. When we figure it out, we're like, now how do we get out of this? Because now it's gotten to that point. So it's something we need to talk to our children about. This is what happens, and if these issues come forward, this is something that you have to be aware of and understand that that's not a good thing. So just as an adult would tell your best friend, hey, I don't like how that person's treating you right now, and I know that person was really nice to you at one point, but that's not right. So same thing with your children. There's just certain things that we have to make them aware of. I know it might hurt, but I'm just trying to look out for you, and you need to see for what it is, and let's talk about it. As far as trafficking, I want to say maybe I have seen a little bit more, but again, I don't know if it's because of the internet now and all this, because they're doing everything a lot more on the internet now. In person, it was something that would happen, and internet, it's just a little more out there. So we are seeing it more, I think. But it's also partially because it's also being reported more often now. People are becoming more and more aware, so they're reporting it. A lot of this stuff has gone on in the past, and it wasn't reported. And so even though it's we might think it's maybe increasing, I think it's just people are becoming aware and actually doing something about it, more than maybe there's an uptick, because I think it's always been there one way or the other. It's always been there. We're just seeing more and more of it. Since I'd say I've been doing this for 20 years. In the beginning, I'd say I used to get half the cases I get. Now I get plenty more, but I'm getting, like I said, a lot of these cases that people are understanding, oh, I was made aware that this wasn't right. And then when I figured it out, I reported it. I'm like, beautiful. So let's see what we can do to help now. But like I said, I think it might not be so much that there's an uptick in it. I think we're more aware of it. We're reporting it and we're doing stuff about it. And that's a good thing. And that's, I think, through like things like this, where we're informing people and people are trying to get informed and understand things a little bit better, and not ignoring it and not making it a taboo anymore as to, well, I don't want people to know about this. And it's not that we want people to know about it. We want it to stop. And so, but a lot of the families I get, typically, had a hard time with it because they didn't want their family knowing what was happening, or what had happened to their child, for especially for what I deal with, the cultural reasonings behind it. It used to be a lot harder to have a parent understand the importance in helping that child in a certain way. Because they're like, even as far as therapy and counseling, they'd be against it because they thought of that as being a negative against their child if someone knew that they were in therapy or in counseling. So, but it is getting better, and I'm seeing it. And I don't think that's the uptick, as far as because it's happening more. I think it's being reported more. And so now I'm seeing more cases. And to me, it's just, we're just becoming more aware and being able to help more people, hopefully down the line.
Thank you, Emily. Did we have another hand? We can take, we do have the poll up for those of you guys who have to jump off. And then we have Maria who has her hand up. Maria? Maria, you can unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you. We can hear you. And for those of you guys who have to jump off, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate you being here. Go ahead, Maria.
Sure. I was just two things. One, it's a comment and a question. Emily, is there any, in your experience, I believe you did say that you work with Hispanic families. I do too, also in my district. And one of the things that we have encountered is precisely because the population in our area, it's come through with a great level of trauma. And there are several, many homeless families, and, the doubling up and all that, where some of the victims, what they experience precisely is through that environment where, like we had this young girl where basically, she said afterwards that she had to choose in between being at a hotel and being able to spend time, in a place that was comfortable versus having to go and have this instability and so there was a mixture of of threats, but then also like okay, how do I get out when this is providing me, on the other hand, a level of quote unquote comfort?
Correct. Yeah. No, we do get that. I think I experience a lot more of I get more of the children who are being abused, and the parent, depending on that person that's the abuser, for food, shelter, and everything else for their children. And so there becomes that, unfortunately, there becomes that choice they want to make as to, do I become homeless and not have food for my children, and that fear of what do I do now?
Right.
And then, or do I continue, because this person now promised this wasn't going to happen anymore? Do I continue to stay in this environment, and not know if it's going to happen again? So we get a lot of that. I think there are, fortunately, there have been more services for families in these situations. And there are more, I mean, I think all around it's become something that, because everyone's well aware of what's going on, there's more agencies, there's more support, there's more places these people can go to or seek help through. I know, like where I work out of, it used to be back in the day, it used to be, I would come in after the child's disclosed to DCFS, to the hospital, to an officer, to somebody else. And then here I come, and now I'm invading their privacy again. And like, hey, I need to know this all over again. And then it was done, we're moving on. Now, at least for children, minors, they come, there's a center now, there's the Chicago Children's Advocacy Center. And so they come there and they talk to a forensic interviewer. They no longer talk to a bunch of people. They we try to focus on one. There's advocacy there. The whole name of it is the Chicago Children's Advocacy Center. So there's advocacy there. There's advocates that are assigned to that child, to that family. And there's resources that are supplied to them. They each is an individual case. So each person is handled differently. We've trained our detectives to also be aware of that, treat these people as you want to be treated yourself. If this, God forbid, ever happened to you, how would you want people to approach you and treat you? And what would you need? What would you need to help you, and understand that each person's different, each story is different, each family's different, each life is different, and we just try to find amongst all of us, as a team effort, what's going to best help this child, because it really comes down to, we want this family to come out of this and be well and do well, and not to be stuck in that same situation that's just gonna, in the end, really implode. It's not gonna get any better. Although at that moment, they're not seeing that, and they're seeing no way out. So I think with the more agencies and the more involvement we have in how we're trying to approach these crimes and families that this occurs to, I think they're understanding it more. They're hearing it. Like, I have families that come to me, well, so-and-so, I know through so-and-so, and they were here. And so I now have the strength to come here because it turned out okay for them. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be for them. And I'm here because I need to do this for my child. So it's a matter of communication amongst all of us, and as a group, as different groups coming together and trying to help each other out. And it gets out. People start understanding that, people start seeing it. And there's those keys that start coming into their lives that they can maybe turn and understand, oh, there's another door I can go through right now. And that might be better. But it's there. Whereas before they couldn't see that. So I'm hoping that with time, sooner than later, that people understand that there's got to be something better. And there's people out there that are going to help me get to that better place. But they have to take that step in order to get there first. But it's a difficult situation because it's almost like I have to put myself in their shoes a lot of times. Like, how would I, Yeah, I've been doing this for years, and there's times where I'm like, oh, that's gotta be so hard right now. And so yeah, it's just giving them that strength, that empowerment, giving those families
Mhm.
empowerment, talking to them. It might not be today, it might not
Yeah.
be tomorrow, but it might be someday. And a lot of times I get adults that were children are telling me now as adults, and I'm like, you know what? I praise them. I'm like, you know what? Good for you. It's
Definitely.
okay. This is your time now. This was your time. You're now ready. That's okay. Because now is your time. So,
Emily,
mhm,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Just want to say we are like way over time,
Oh,
but
yeah, no
thank you
problem.
so much. This is a
You're
good conversation.
welcome.
It just means it was a good webinar and it's a great conversation. So thank you for taking the time to share
No,
this
thank
with
you.
us and to help us to bring awareness to this.
Yeah.
And thank you to everybody who joined us for today's webinar.
Yeah,
You
I
can
would
go to the next
definitely
slide.
recommend the website for anybody. It's got different languages as well. So even if it's for
Cool.
others, they can turn to that to kind of get more information as well.
Cool. Thank you. Next slide, Maria. Maria, Lord. Next slide, D. Don't forget to visit our Be Strong Family shop. If you have cafe needs, you want to know more about Be Strong Families, check out our website. Join our join our YouTube community. You can go to YouTube. You can join our YouTube community. You can catch this recording and all the other great webinars we've had over the last few years. You can catch those on the webinar on the YouTube page. Just scan the QR code; it'll take you right there. Somebody asked about certificates. They are available at request only. We do cafes every, 3 times a month. Here's our schedule for the rest of this month and for the beginning of May. Please check us out. Come sit out. This is led by our national team of parents from across the country. They lead these cafes throughout the month and they are fabulous. Okay. You want to talk about keeping your children safe? That's where it is. And then next. All right. Thank you, Althea. You're leaving that. Who would you like to contact you? Okay. And contact info at bestrongfamilies.net. Luanda, if you want a certificate, okay? The information is on the screen. Info at bestrongfamilies.net, and they can get that over to you. And Althea, you left your number. Who would you like to contact you? All right. So, Emily, thank you so much for being here. Really,
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it again. Thank you, Dee. Shout out to Dee, who's our tech person today, doing a great job. And we will see you guys at the next webinar, I think the first week of May. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.